We're going to create now our first dynamic role. We'll see how iTeam supports that. No coding as usual. We have a user, and let's look at it from the console, from the cockpit. Let's look at Eric Powers. We can select Eric from here. And when we look at Eric, we see, he's a member of that group. We look at business information, and we're going to focus on this attribute here, which is title, which he's an executive right now. And what we want to do, and that's the nature of a dynamic role, is nothing more than when an attribute of the user in the LDAP, like this one we're going to pick on right now, executive, changes, or somebody gets a VIP attribute or this executive attribute, that person automatically is going to get some access rights that he hasn't requested them, he hasn't asked for those, and the minute that he gets that attribute to that associated with that particular name, he's going to get all those access. If he gets promoted, demoted, he's going to lose all those access. That's what a dynamic role is. So we see that his title is executive. We can see what accounts he has, just to prove that he doesn't have access to the BO LDAP. He only has the basic two accounts, iTeam Service and the white pages, but not the BO LDAP. And what we're going to be doing, is create a provisioning policy that is going to say, well, whoever has that title is going to get the BO LDAP automatically. And we're going to show that by just doing that, Eric is actually going to get that. So as before, we're going to go into manage roles, and we're going to create a role that we're going to call it executive. But this time we're going to select this role as being dynamic. We're not going to use all these features. We'll use them then later. We talk a little bit about them. We're just going to enable access. But then what we need to do is here, okay, what's the rule for somebody to get this role? And it's nothing more than all you need to do is specify here the attribute that you wanted to look for. We're going to say title equals executive. And that's all we need to do. Anyone who gets that title, we're going to make that effective immediately, is going to get that role. Okay? So in fact, we can actually look back at manage roles in here. Let's close this window, and we can actually go into the dynamic role we just created called executive. Notice that the system is actually telling me that's a dynamic role. We can see it right here, and we can see who's a member of that. We can search for who's a member. Oh, only Eric Power. Why? Well, because we just created that rule, and the system immediately dynamically evaluates that and say, bang, he gets that role. But now we can treat that, of the consequences of that, as we have done with other provisioning policy. So let's go back and create a provisioning policy that we're going to call VIP fellow. And same thing as before, we're not going to use these options for now. And members, we say role specified below. And iTeam doesn't really care whether the role is dynamic or static to be assigned to a provisioning policy. So in here we see this is a dynamic role, but as we do it as a static one, that's what we assign. And what is it that people get as an entitlement of that? Well, we said that we want to give an automatic access to a specific service, which was the BOO. In fact, we can look in here, BOO, so to look just specifically for that one, and that's the one we want. We select that, click OK, and submit that. Make it effective immediately, and the system is going to evaluate this provisioning policy. It's going to find who has this role, and it's going to go ahead and give the person that role. In fact, we can go back into manage users and look for powers, just to show the perspective from the cockpit, which is a little bit more elaborated than the self-held nice looking GUI of the dashboard. And we look for Eric. Where are you? Eric is right here, and we click on accounts, and we see which account he has, and bang, he got the BOLDAP account by virtue of having that role. If we were to change Mr. Powers, and let's say that we are going to change his title from executive, we're going to call it, we're going to demote him. We're going to call him a manager now. He's a manager now. And we submit that. What we're going to see, and as usual in iTeam, you can actually look at the status of the request from the console by clicking in here, and we'll see that that one is successful. And actually, we can go and look at Mr. Powers and see which accounts he has. Where's Eric? And now, because he's no longer an executive, he should have lost that access to the build-up, and sure thing he did. If we were to put him back on that title, again he will get the access, and that's what dynamic accesses are within iTeam.